George Lewis. Welcome to the Vortex Sarasota show. Sarasota has been Florida's hidden spiritual mecca for many years. Its transformative atmosphere is embraced by a circular flow of spiritual energy. The power of this vortex saturates all of Sarasota and can be noticed in subtle ways anywhere around town. Adding to this already tremendous force is the 40-acre white sandy beach of Siesta Key, made up of powdered quartz sand. Actually, a study by Harvard University's geology department found that the sand was 99% pure quartz crystal. Now this is truly important, as quartz is a power mineral. It has an energetic ability to amplify subtle energies. Quartz enhances energy by absorbing, storing, amplifying, balancing, focusing, and transmitting. Think of it, our thoughts are a form of energy, and thus quartz enhances our thinking. The application of energy is extremely beneficial to manifesting, healing, meditation, protection, and channeling. It's also beneficial to memory, as storing and retrieving information of all types uses a form of energy. Welcome to the Vortex Sarasota show. I'm your host, George Lewis. I've got a superb guest here for us tonight. I have Tom Newman from the Sarasota Center of Light. It was the Shrine of the Master for those of you who have been around for a while. Tom's a great guest. Welcome, Tom.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Really pleased to have you here tonight.
It's my privilege.
Especially on the fact that you're going to have to leave here and go do, you have another
Teach
commitment.
a healing class.
Teach a healing class right after this. Well, that's cool. We knew each other, but kind of only in passing. She has been several years now, 4 or 5 years, I think.
It has.
You let me use your space back in the hall. What's the name of the hall?
Davis Hall.
Davis Hall, to teach a meditation class, and that was a good experience for me. It's your whole environment there has such a good vibration and a feeling.
Yes.
Your meditation garden, I've spent many hours in your meditation garden. The one place I haven't had an opportunity to go is in your meditation chapel. I understand that's wonderful.
Yes. We'll work out a time for you to visit.
That would be great. I would like that very much.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, I can just get a feeling for that, that it would be. So you've been, are you a spiritualist minister, or because I think the church was a spiritualist church early?
We had our origins in spiritualism.
Right.
When the Flexer started, they were part of the Spiritual Episcopal Church, which was started by Clifford Bias, John Bunker, and another fellow, Robert Cheney.
How did Episcopal come into play?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question. Because I think what they were doing, this was in 1941. They were looking for ways to link from a traditional point of view over to a metaphysical or spiritualist point of view. And if they were to be something completely different, standing by themselves out, in the field, they would have had difficulty attracting individuals over there.
Oh, I bet.
So they used the teachings and philosophy of Jesus and other master teachers as the link to bring people over and take them out of an environment of fear and dogma into another environment where there's independent thinking and free will and personal responsibility.
Right.
So they used some of those orthodox icons and traditions to bring people over.
That makes sense. I think back to the late 60s, early 70s when I first got into metaphysics, and it was like witchcraft.
Right.
People had a real problem with it, and you were of the devil. Some of that still exists today.
Oh, yes.
It's like very powerful.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. you experience it.
We don't do anything with live chickens or anything like that.
No snakes, no live chickens.
None of that.
But there's hope, right?
There is hope.
There's hope.
But essentially, in 1958, the Flexers, Dorothy and Russell Flexer, who were our founders,
right,
they created their own denomination.
This was in 1958 that they started the...
They started the Sarasota Church in 1949.
49.
Right. Tampa Church they started in 47.
Right.
And they remained part of the Spiritual Episcopal denomination until 58.
Okay.
And they started a denomination that they called Metaphysical Christianity.
Right.
So at one time there were 3 churches that belonged to that denomination. There was one in Bradenton, one in Tampa, and one here in Sarasota. And now there's just the one church. And we have changed the name of that to Metaphysical Spirituality. We changed it last summer.
Right. Well, that, which I think is probably a good move on your part. Isn't the metaphysical Christianity, that's kind of a unity thing too, isn't it? I mean, the early founders for sure were into metaphysical Christianity.
Yes, yeah. Actually, the founders of Unity, the founders of Theosophy, a lot of the New Thought movement, they were all started in spiritualism.
Right.
But many
they
of
were
them,
all started in
They all
spiritualism.
started in spiritualism, but they pulled
I know
away.
Theosophy was.
Yeah, they pulled away because of the communication with people who had passed away.
Right.
It was, considered to be pretty far out. And so some of those folks took a more traditional route, holding on to the metaphysical principles, but leaving the phenomena alone.
Looking for more acceptance.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be, they'd be more traditional, but they're considered part of the metaphysical movement today.
Well, when I look at what some people like Emmett Fox, what he was able to do there in New York City was phenomenal.
Right.
For of course, he had to dress it all up in, kind of different language and so forth.
Exactly.
I was looking at your list of books, your readings that you recommended, and we have many of the same teachers. You have one there, though, that I was really pretty curious about. Silberrud?
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of him. What?
He's amazing. He is an amazing teacher.
Well, I figured he must be because you had about a half a dozen books that were there that you had
Yes.
that you were recommending.
He did one, and he's taken the approach of, from a historical perspective, of coming around in a scientific perspective and proving the same things that we in the metaphysical movement have believed in.
Oh, very cool.
He did a wonderful book, The Unknown Jesus, Correcting the Church Myth. And he used the cultural writings of the Persians and the Hebrews, away from the Bible, separate from the Bible, to determine how Christianity all came about. And really it wasn't until the 4th century that they solidified on what their belief system was going to be.
Nicaea, Council of
Yes,
Nicaea.
right.
Constantine.
Right. There were 7 councils in that century. And unfortunately what they did was, once they had decided what was going to be their theology, they declared everything else to be blasphemy and heresy.
Yeah.
Right? And it was to the penalty of death to retain those writings.
Do you think that really had anything to do with belief, or more to do? See, because from what I see really happened there was the Roman Empire really had come, to its downfall and had lost all power. And Constantine was looking for power and saw the cross in the sky and took Christianity, and we just kind of transmorphed from the Roman Empire to the Roman Catholic Church.
Right.
Wasn't much difference in that.
You're right.
It was
It was a glove and a hand fit.
absolutely. Well, and the Roman government, all of their conquest was about tax money, and is that not what land and tax money? I was in the real estate business in Fort Myers in the 70s, all of the 70s, and the amount of land that the Catholic diocese down there owned is phenomenal.
Well, that book is one of the best on the history of the Christian church, essentially the Catholic Church, that I've ever come across.
Are you familiar with Timothy Freak?
No.
The author, he wrote Gnostic Gospels and a lot about mysticism and that kind of thing. I had him on the show. He's just written another new book. I'm going to have him back on.
Oh, interesting.
Very, very bright guy, and involved in that same kind of thing.
But I think the Gnostics had a handle on what was really happening.
I do too.
And unfortunately, and if you look at, there were 3 what they called proto-religion that were the Orthodox religions. They had the Gnostic teachings, they had pagan teachings.
Right.
And where the major difference was on the role that Jesus played.
Huge difference.
You know, some believe that he was God, some believe he was the Son of God, some believe he was a master teacher, some believe he became God, you know, in the River Jordan, and that was the major deciding factor that differentiated. Of course, the Gnostics, they were more along, we have responsibility for our own lives. We're not puppets on a string.
Right.
You know, with a God, an anthropomorphic God who's
right.
determining who will succeed and who will fail.
God without a beard. Well, Valentinius played a big role back in that whole thing before
Mm-hmm.
Constantine. You know, and when you look at that was all about money too, because Constantine offered to have 50 Bibles, you know, published.
Uh-huh.
And they, you know, in those days, that was a huge run. It was kind of like, you know, Harry Potter.
It was, yeah, it's all done by hand.
Yeah, all done by hand, all hand painted. It's pretty amazing.
But Sieberud has done other books too. He's done one called Keepers of the Secrets. He's done one on secret societies. He's even done one on our galactic visitors, which is
I saw that.
Fascinating.
And I didn't know if that was him, and I didn't have time to go further.
It is. It is.
Pretty fascinating, huh?
Yeah, and there are 5 books that he calls the Sacred Science Chronicles. And again, he's using more than just belief to support his point of view.
Right.
Which I enjoy that perspective.
Well, you know, there were quite a few years, Tom, where I was pretty much a skeptic on the idea of aliens or
Mm-hmm.
coming here. But I've become, you know, like when you start to really look at what's there, and you realize the distances that we're probably talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They could have been here and then gone, and we would never hear or see from them again.
Exactly.
For, you know, if ever.
I was the same. I was of the same, because I didn't know anything about it, and I really wasn't that interested.
Yeah, me either.
I pretty much thought, well, it doesn't exist. But we don't teach this at the church.
Right.
They're the center now, but I do believe absolutely there are other life forms and other planets, and some that have had instrumental effects on the evolution of the human species.
Huge effects.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, because we went from primitive to modern almost overnight.
You're exactly right.
It happened like boom.
Yeah,
and
you're exactly right.
Very, very quickly.
In Subarud's book, Our Galactic Visitors, he lists the technology. He states that there's people in our government that have established communication that aliens have communicated with, and they have exchanged technology, and that fiber optics and some of the other medical advances that have come about, he believes came from alien technology.
I'm at a place now where I can believe that
Yeah.
probably happened. And also Area 51 back in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the 40s. I mean, they hold too much of a lid on that for what
Right.
reason, you know, that we can see. Have you ever had communication with him? Do you know him?
No, but he's someone that I'm interested in making contact with and seeing if we could bring him to teach at our center.
Well, I'm interested in having him come on my show, my spiritual but not religious show.
Okay.
Maybe we can kind
Sure.
of work together.
If I make contact with him, I'll
and vice versa.
yeah, that would be great.
All right.
Because we try to bring in some of the best teachers in the world, literally,
Right.
that are still within their own ego.
They're a little hard to find sometimes.
That we can afford, that people,
Right.
regular people can afford to go to their classes or get readings from them.
Right. Boy, it's become pretty amazing, some of the
Yeah,
fees that they get to
yeah,
come.
like looking for hen's teeth, but they're out there.
Yeah, and I think when you hit that, you hit somebody who's really connected to that spiritual path.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's their goal, is to bring spiritual teachings and spiritual truth. Making a living is important, and money will follow that. But if you make the money your goal, then that's where things go awry.
Oh, I managed to experience that. I did exactly that, and it's like it just didn't work.
Right.
It all blew apart.
Right.
And I wasn't able to handle that. I have another show later tonight, and he talks very much about that, that facet.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So you've been in, what year did you start with metaphysics?
I started when I was 11. I'm 60, so it's been 49 years. It was 1963.
And what was your experience at 11? I mean, how did you come by it at 11?
Well, my mom met somebody. She was a single mom, and my parents had divorced when I was very young. And he invited her to the church service in Tampa.
Right.
It was an evening service. Well, Dorothy Flexer was also a physical medium.
Right.
And she had classes on Monday nights where she would go into trance and spirit would draw. She had a lot of ectoplasm in her body. They would draw the ectoplasm from her body and be able to produce a vocal box.
Right.
That they could essentially speak through, just as you and I are speaking.
Right.
And so I started attending those classes, which were basically spiritual mediumship development, spiritual philosophy, and teaching. I started attending those at 11.
So you have a many-year relationship with Dorothy then?
Yes, yes.
You know, over many years. And she
Yes.
was your primary teacher in this area?
Yes, yes. She was the primary teacher until 96 when she made the transition. She was 82.
Did you get ordained through her or through
Yes.
another?
Yes, through her.
Right.
The Church of Metaphysical Christianity, the denomination they started,
Right.
had they had an ordination process.
Right.
So after several years of, it was 10 years of study, I was ordained.
Right.
And they have a healing certification, they have inspirational speaking certification, and spiritual counseling. So
Are
that
there
was
other
done.
churches involved or just?
Right now, it's just the one.
Right.
But then, since then, I have, there are other teachers, other people that I consider to be teachers. Even though I'm a teacher, and I teach many classes, I'm still
Right.
a student.
Absolutely.
I'm still learning the next level, the next layer. I'm learning, seeing things from different perspectives. And so that's the exciting thing about it. And I'm sure, as you know, if you put the thought out there that you want to learn more, teachers will appear.
They'll come out of the woodwork.
They will.
You know,
There'll
they'll
be a
jump off the
book.
shelf at you.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Books jump off the shelf.
It's like, how do you know, and the thought will come and you'll say something, you think, well, where'd that come from? You know? I'm
right.
sure you experience that on the pulpit on a regular basis.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You'll say something that you never even thought about before.
Right. Because I speak inspirationally.
Right.
For the last probably 11 years. My teacher, spirit teacher, advised me to speak without preparing notes, and so we have perfected that as an ability. It's a type of mediumship.
So when you do that, is there any kind of preparation you do? Do you have to center yourself?
No.
It just kind of like you've been connected so long, it just comes like.
I can feel, we have 2 services on Sunday, in
Right.
the morning and the evening, and I can feel in the morning when I'm about an hour before I leave, I can feel the energy around me changing.
Uh-huh.
And I know that my spirit teachers and chemists are working with that energy. So when I'm standing on the platform and it's the time to give a talk, the information will be just, it'll be downloaded to me in just vast quantity.
Right.
It's not a sentence, it's not a paragraph, it's like a whole chapter of information. And then I just go from there.
Hasn't technology really helped as far as understanding this realm? I mean, just the word downloaded.
Yes.
It makes a huge, trying to explain this back in the 50s or the 60s was like, what are you talking about? But you say
right.
download to a kid and, oh, yeah, I know exactly what.
Well, actually what's happening, science is catching up with metaphysics.
Absolutely.
That's really what's happening.
Yeah, and we find physicists really proving things that,
You're right.
you know, were so.
It's quantum
far out.
physics. It's quantum physics
Absolutely.
that's guiding all of this.
Were you at all a follower of Jane Roberts' work?
Yes.
The Seth
I was.
materials?
Sure. Seth speaks. Yes, Seth material.
Right, she was a real big inspiration for me
That
back
was a
in the.
breakthrough.
Yeah.
She was a breakthrough.
That was, I
teacher.
think she kind of opened the door for more acceptance in channeling, in that kind of mediumship.
We have a lady who, Tony Winninger, who's coming in next Thursday, a week from today.
Uh-huh.
She'll be with us for 2 weeks. she is a clear conscious channel, and she's one of the best I've ever seen. She was an assistant state attorney for 27 years in Cook County in Chicago.
Really?
She retired in her late 50s, and then and didn't believe in any of this stuff. And then Spirit opened the door to her, and now she's in my opinion, she's one of the best clear conscious channels in the country.
Maybe we can help each other. Maybe we can. I'll have to check and see what the schedule is. Maybe while she's here, we'll get her on a show.
Yeah,
and then we can get you some publicity. And
she is amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to be introduced to her.
Yeah, I'll check her schedule too.
Okay, that would be.
But we have her, Karen Cook, who channels Bennu, who is the Archangel Gabriel.
Right. Is she one of your church members?
No, she's based in Albuquerque.
Okay.
She's an outside medium who comes in once a year in March. And I've been around, George. I've been around physical mediumship for 49 years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert in any field, but I know a lot about it. I have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And I can tell, a lot of people, they portray themselves as being these mystical channels.
So you can spot the real deal.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I tested it, and I go to Santa Fe several times a year, and we'll go down and catch a lecture that Bennu is giving. Bennu means doorway. Right. He is the Archangel Gabriel. And it's amazing.
You're talking about the real deal. I was in San Diego for a couple, 3 years. And at the time, I was dating a woman who was a New Age minister. This was when Ramtha first got and I was listening to Ramtha, and it was like, wow, this it was really powerful. And then I get to one of his talks, and it was Ramtha says, my whole goal is to be as famous as a rock star. And I thought, oh boy, this is, I'm
warning.
Yeah, red flags up all over the place.
That's right.
Something.
That's right.
Because that's not the path
a master teacher would never say that.
Not never. Even, no way possible.
No.
It's just like
an evolved being. It's interesting. I have the same. That's my perception too.
Well, it's like it's like the and Jay-Z Knight who does this actually was the impetus behind The Secret. And and that's really well packaged, really marketed well.
Right.
And unfortunately, the big impetus it seems to be about what can I get? What can I get? And for me, that's those things we need, but that's not what I understand as a spiritual path.
I'm in agreement.
It's just it's kind of a sideline kind of thing for real spirituality. It's pretty easy to become. And I sense that this, like this, and you don't even come close with this, to become pretty spiritually prideful. You learn a lot of stuff, and you can become a spiritual know-it-all. And I think, when we do that, we really set ourselves up for a big fall.
We do.
And
we block our connection with the divine prime source, with the divine power.
Absolutely.
Or we hinder it, and it's. I think that, and it's interesting, I teach several classes, throughout the year. And I can learn, I look at every one of those students, and I take the thought that I'm going to learn something from every one of these people. Even if it's their very first metaphysical class, there's something that I will learn from that will help me to be a better teacher.
There's a saying, I can't think of who the quote belongs to, but that contempt prior to investigation assures you of a place in ignorance. It's like, there's no question. And I think that's our biggest job, is staying open, Tom.
Oh, it is.
It's staying open, and we get some new thing, and it's like, oh, wow, and it's exciting and all that goes with it. And it's a good place to get fried.
It is.
I'm at a place in life now where, after many lessons, that I like to have my head in the clouds with my feet planted firmly on terra firma. So I have that ground, because it's such a powerful place that we go to. How is your meditation life? How's your meditation practice? Tell us about what you do with meditation. Do you meditate on a regular basis still?
I meditated on a regular basis for several years. And meditation is a way to find balance, I believe.
Yeah.
Actually, balance will find you. You don't have to go out and look for it. I haven't done as much meditation in the morning. I've gotten to the point where I can just take just a few minutes to ground myself and be in an altered state within just minutes, anytime during the day.
Right.
And so that's where I don't need that morning. And that was kind of a doorway to getting started. And I don't need that now, because when I walk into the church to begin a service or just greet people and all of this, I'm starting already to go into that state.
See, that's been my experience.
Uh-huh.
I want you to know I admire your honesty. So many people, have reached that same place, and they don't want to talk about that fact because, like new meditators and other people who haven't gotten there, it's like, oh, you don't. But that was my experience with meditation.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I started with TM, and then I also did Silva Mind Control.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things in Silva Mind Control, it was a guided meditation, was to get you where they would snap their fingers and you would go immediately to level.
Mm-hmm.
Which at that point told me, hey, I can probably get there on my own at some place. So,
and I think I think you put your finger on it. It's easy in the metaphysical field or the Eastern religion field to get just as dogmatic as the Orthodox people have. If you allow yourself, and we don't want to do that. We don't want someone to say, there's only one way to meditate, or there's only one way to tune in, or there's only one way to connect with spirit. There's a lot of different ways. Each one of us is wired differently in our experiences, body chemistry, and all that. You just have to find out what works best for you.
And coming to respect that innate diversity, the huge amount, it's a wonder. It's a mysterious thing. Not only the dogma, but also the guilt. We can throw as much guilt out there as the Catholic Church ever threw out there, and
You're right.
And thinking that somehow or other we're right and we're different, and it's not.
You're right. You're right.
Because we're not all built the same.
We're
just not all wired the same. Some of the teachings about all you have to do is think it and believe it, and you can achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like, can you become, if you really believe it and you think it and you want to be a National Football League quarterback? Maybe, maybe not. So.
Well, the other thing I strongly believe in is that we create our own soul's plan. We choose to come into this lifetime, this incarnation, for specific reasons, specific life lessons we want to experience. And some of those will be the rock star, and some of the others will be the one who cleans the restrooms. And we do that because of what we can gain, the opportunities to gain for our own spirituality. And being the rock star doesn't mean we're better than the person who cleans restrooms or picks up our trash.
Got nothing to do with it, does it?
No, it has nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. Yeah. Well, you know what? I had a whole lot of things that I wanted to talk with you about tonight, but you started talking about your sermons coming from Spirit, and I decided the same thing, and that's where we've been in this conversation tonight. Our half hour is gone. Phew.
Wow.
We got a couple of minutes left. Tell us where your church is so that our audience can find their way to you.
Yeah, the church is just in its 62nd year. It's on 852 South Tuttle and at the corner of Browning Street. It's about 3 lights south of Fruitville, which is a major east-west kind of highway here in Sarasota. And we have a large complex, and we're a teaching center. Well,
you own most of that street, don't you?
We own the entire block.
Yeah.
On both sides. We have a beautiful healing garden, which is an outdoor sanctuary. We're very fortunate that the founders and the early members followed the teachings and guidance of their spirit teachers.
Right.
And consequently, all of that property is paid for. And, we're just moving forward, building in the future.
Boy, being debt-free is so hugely important.
It's huge.
Hugely important.
Huge.
Well, Tom, thank you. I've had a really good conversation with you. I'll look forward to getting to know you better at some point. Maybe we'll have dinner or coffee one of these days.
It's been indeed my pleasure, George.
Sounds good. Well, it's been a great show. I've had a good time with Tom. I'm sure that you have also. We could spend another hour here and easily with no problem. So maybe we'll have Tom come back next week, same time, another great guest, 7 o'clock. In the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.